All right, so here we're going to be covering today Chapter P, Section 5, and it's the last part of Section 5, so it's Part D. This is the last section we're going to cover of the prerequisite chapter. So all of this should have been a review of Algebra 1. We're now going to move on to the Algebra 2 content starting on Wednesday after we take the test. Okay, so all of this should be slowly coming back to you from your Algebra 1 course. And again, probably the only thing that was maybe new to you might have been the perfect cubes. The rest, the difference of squares, perfect square trinomials, factoring those trinomials, all of that should be coming back to you, and it should have been covered in your Algebra 1 course. So today we're going to be given rational expressions with complex fractions. And this is really just a fraction in a fraction. So there's two options or two ways that you can go about simplifying complex fractions. Option 1 would be to find the LCD of each fraction, multiply each term by that LCD, and then simplify. Or option 2, and this is the one that I am going to show you, is option 2. I'm going to basically treat it like three different problems. I'm going to find the LCD of the numerator and the denominator separately, and then I'm going to simplify the numerator, simplify the denominator, and then I'm going to do a state change flip or keep change flip, however you want to do it, because that fraction bar is really the division sign. So let's go ahead and take a look. Now, some of these complex fractions, you're not going to need to find a common denominator. So if there's nothing being added or subtracted, then you don't need to find a common denominator. You're just going to do your state change or your state change flip, whatever your middle school teacher taught you when you divide integers. This is what we're doing here, or dividing fractions. So here, this division bar, or this fraction, is the division sign. So really what I'm going to be doing here is 1 over x divided by 1 over x squared. So I'm doing, since it's fractions, state change, keep change, flip, however you want to do it. I'm going to keep the first fraction. I'm going to change this to multiplication, and then I'm going to flip the second fraction to its reciprocal, flip it upside down. Now I can simplify diagonally. I can cancel out an x, and then I can take one x out of this and leave behind just an x to the first. Now remember, when you're canceling things, you're not making it disappear and become a 0. What's left behind is a 1. Okay, so you should never get a 0 as an answer when you're canceling things. You're left behind with a 1. Now I'm going to multiply what remains. So I have 1 times x and 1 times 1, which simplifies to just x. We're going to do the next one. Same thing. All we're going to do is divide the two fractions. There's no common denominator to find. So we're really turning it in to what we did in P4B or P5B, the multiplying and the dividing. So again, this is the main fraction bar right here. So it's this fraction up here divided by this fraction here. So I'm going to be doing 1 over x minus 2 divided by 1 over x squared minus 4. And again, I'm going to keep flip change it, keep the blue one, change it to multiplication, and flip the red one upside down. Now I have what I did in P5B. I need to factor and cancel. So I can factor the numerator of the red. So the numerator of the red becomes, let me go ahead and rewrite the blue. So now the red I can factor that. It's the difference of two squares. So it's going to become x minus 2, x plus 2, and then it's over the 1. And now I look for things to cancel. I can cancel the x minus 2's. What remains is a 1 because I'm doing something divided by itself. And now I'm going to multiply what's left. And what remains here is 1 times x plus 2 is just x plus 2 over 1. And again, the final answer is just x plus 2. You don't need to write the 1 in the denominator. So essentially, we are just dividing the numerator by the denominator. So number 3, again, I'm going to divide. So here's my main division bar, or the fraction bar. So I'm dividing the numerator by the denominator. So my problem is 1 over x squared minus 9 divided by 1 over x minus 3. Going to keep, flip, change it, or stay, change, whatever you want to memorize it as. So this stays the same. I'm going to change the division to multiplication, and I flip this fraction upside down. I now need to factor the denominator of the red one. It's the difference of two squares. It's going to factor into x plus 3, x minus 3. The order that you write that doesn't matter. The blue one's done, nothing to factor. And now I look for things to simplify. The x minus 3 simplify. I'm left with 1 over 1 times x plus 3. So the final answer is 1 over x plus 3. Now, here's where we need to find the common denominators. So on number 4, we're really going to treat it like 3 different problems. I'm going to subtract the numerator, simplify that down. I'm going to subtract the denominator. Once I get that simplified, then I can divide. Everybody ready? Here we go. So this is the option 2. So I'm going to first treat the top of the fraction here as its own problem. This is what we learned in P5C, where we had to add and subtract rational expressions. So I'm going to come up here, and I'm going to do 2 over x minus, and I can put 3 over 1. I need to find the LCD, or the common denominator. My common denominator is going to be an x. Notice the first fraction already has it. The second one needs to be multiplied by x. So now I end up with 2 over x minus 3x over x. I now have a common denominator, and I can add my numerator. So now my numerator becomes 2 minus 3x over x. That is my simplified numerator. So now I have that. I still have this main fraction bar. And now I need to simplify the denominator. And I'm going to subtract that. So now I could put 1 over 1 if that helps you to turn that whole number 1 into a fraction. Now, remember, in order to find a common denominator, we're multiplying here. I can't just say, oh, I'm going to add it. I'm going to put a negative x there or something. I need to realize that my common denominator is the x minus 1. So I'm going to multiply this by x minus 1, x minus 1. And again, if you realize that it was the whole number 1, to turn a whole number 1, you just have the other denominator and put it on top of itself. So this is now x minus 1 over x minus 1. That's what the whole number 1 became. And now I have a common denominator. I can add my numerator, so it becomes that. Combine your like terms, and the denominator becomes x minus 2 over x minus 1. So now that's my simplified denominator with a common denominator. Now I'm going to do like I did the first 3 problems. I'm going to divide these 2 fractions. So now that I've simplified the numerator, simplified the denominator, now I'm going to do 2 minus 3x over x divided by x minus 2 over x minus 1. I need to do like a keep flip change here. So I'm going to keep the green one. I'm going to change the division to a multiplication, and I'm going to flip the blue one upside down. And now I'm going to look for things that will simplify. And here, nothing simplifies because remember, this is attached and this is attached, and so is this. So my final answer here, I can put it all in one line, is just going to be 2 minus 3x times x minus 1 over x times x minus 2. Now remember, when you go to check the homework, what their answers have is the top foiled and the bottom distributed. You don't need to do that. Leave your answer in factored form. And you're done. Nothing cancels. Don't try to cancel the x's because remember they're attached. These are going to get kind of long. It's going to take a lot of work. Everybody good on number 4? Let's try number 5. So the top, there's nothing to simplify. So this one's all done. However, this is the main fraction bar. So now I need to simplify this bottom one. I need to find an LCD. So x squared over 5 minus 5 over 1. My common denominator is going to be 5. So I could times the top and the bottom by 5. So this new fraction becomes x squared minus 25 over 5. So now that's what's here. So now again, I'm going to do x plus 5, and I could write it with a 1, divided by x squared minus 25 over 5. I need to do a keep flip change. So the x plus 5 stays. Change the division to multiplication. Flip the second fraction upside down. Before I multiply, I need to factor and see what will simplify. I can factor the denominator of the yellow and make it, it's the difference of 2 squares, x plus 5, x minus 5. Then the top over here. And now I look for things to simplify. I can simplify the x plus 5 and the x plus 5. And now I'm going to multiply what's left. And I got 1 times 5 is 5. And then the denominator, 1 times x minus 5, is just x minus 5. Do not do this. You cannot do that. The denominator, the x minus 5, is attached. So that's your simplified fraction. Okay, so do not try to cancel those 5s. Everybody good? Let's try the next one. Now, for the numerator, There's nothing here that needs to be combined, so the numerator here is done. However, the denominator, what I'm going to do to make this a little simpler is I could factor it. Here there's no common denominator to find out, so let's do this. So I'm going to do this divided by this. This is my fraction bar. So I'm going to do x squared minus 1 over x divided by not flipped yet. So x minus 1 squared over x. And again, I'm going to do the keep, flip, change. Keep the green. Change the multiplication. Flip this. And now I'm going to factor. Now, if you're okay with when you flip it, if you want to put it in factored form, you can. But again, I like to go step by step so I don't forget anything. So for the green one is now going to be factored. It's the difference of two squares. I can make it x minus 1, x plus 1 over x. The yellow one, the x stays. And then the x minus 1 squared, I'm just going to write it 2 times. Just so it makes it easier for me to look for things to cancel. So here what I can do is I'm going to simplify the x's. So I can cancel those. A 1 is left behind. And then I can also simplify one of the x minus 1's. And now what remains in the numerator is 1 times x plus 1 times 1. So in the numerator, the only thing that's left is x plus 1. In the denominator, x minus 1. Do not try to simplify anything here. The only way we could simplify this is if both the x were opposite signs and the 1's. So nothing simplifies here. Don't be tempted to cross off the x's and say my final answer is -1. You will get it wrong. That's your final answer. So here we go. Number 7. This one, I've got to treat it like the 3 problems because I need to find common denominators. So let's go ahead and work with the numerator first. So I'll do this one in green. I'm going to move it up to the top. So again, I could put 6 over 1 minus 5 over x. I need to find a common denominator. My common denominator is going to be x. So I'm going to multiply this one by an x and this one by an x. So this now will turn into 6x minus 5 over x. You do not add the denominator, just the numerators. Yes?
Can't you divide, if you were to multiply by -1 on the numerator, you wouldn't be able to divide it out, right? Divide out to 5x.
Multiply it by -1. You gotta find common denominator at the bottom, and then we'll look for things to simplify. All right, so the numerator is now 6x minus 5 over x. I still have my fraction bar here. I now need to simplify the denominator. So I can put 1 over 1 plus 5 over x. Again, same scenario. My common denominator is the x. So I'm going to times this fraction by x. So then this becomes 1x, or just x plus 5 over x. And then that's what I'm going to fill in underneath here. So x plus 5 over x. So again, let's turn it into a division problem. So it's going to be the green, the numerator, divided by the denominator. Keep, change, flip. So keep it. Change it to multiplication. Let's not do an x, let's do a dot. And then flip it upside down. Now I'm going to look for things to simplify. The only thing I can simplify are the x's. I can't simplify the x and the 5, so I'm just going to multiply what's left. So 6x minus 5 times 1 over x plus 5. Again, these are attached. The only way to simplify is it would need to look identical. If I could pull a GCF out of this, then I'd be able to simplify, but I can't. So I'm done. Let's try number 8. Again, I'm going to treat this like 3 different problems. I'm going to add the numerator, add the denominator, and then I'm going to divide those results. So for my numerator, I'm going to add this. Let me just do it right here. So my common denominator is actually going to be a. So remember, don't be tempted to say, oh, I just need to put a plus 1 here. You can't do that. You have to remember that when you're finding a common denominator, you're multiplying to make that LCD. So what I'm going to do is my common denominator is going to be a times a plus 1. So it's both. So my first fraction is missing the a. So a times a for the numerator becomes a squared. The second fraction is missing the a plus 1. So 1 times a plus 1 is just a plus 1. Now I can add my numerators. Now, when you're adding fractions, don't try to cancel things. You have to add the numerator first. So I'm going to add the numerator, a squared plus a plus 1 over a times a plus 1. That is my simplified fraction for the numerator. Nothing will cancel. I can't factor that trinomial. There are no factors of 1 that will give me 1. So the top is done. Now let's work on the denominator. Again, same scenario. My common denominator is going to be a times a plus 1. So this one's missing the a plus 1. So 1 times a plus 1 is just a plus 1. This one's missing the a. Again, don't look for things to cancel. You need to add those numerators. So 1a plus 1a is 2a. And then keep the same denominator. So now these are the two fractions that I'm dividing. So now I'm going to divide the green by the blue. So I'm going to keep flip change it. Well, first let me write it out for you. So a squared plus a plus 1 over a times a plus 1. And then put a division. And then 2a plus 1 over a times a plus 1. Now, if you're okay with just jumping right to the multiplication and realizing you just have to flip the bottom, you can do that. So if you wanted to skip that division step and just show this step, as long as you're good with recognizing it, I'm okay with that. A plus 1 to a plus 1. Now I look for things to simplify. The only thing I can cancel is the a and the a. That'll cancel. And then also the a plus 1 and this a plus 1 because they're identical. Okay, nothing else will simplify. So the final answer here, when I multiply straight across, is going to be a squared plus a plus 1 over 2a plus 1. Do not be tempted to cancel this and this parts of things. You can't do that. Because again, remember, these are attached together. The only way to cancel is to find something That's an identical match. Let's try number 9. That's going to be on the next slide. Everybody good on this slide? All right, last 2 examples. Again, we need to simplify this whole numerator and then simplify the denominator by finding a common denominator. So again, I can change the 2 and make it 2 over 1. My common denominator is going to be an x. The first fraction is missing it. So then this will turn into 2x minus 2 over x. So that's the simplified numerator. And then the denominator, again, I can put 2 over 1 plus 2 over x. This one is missing an x. That's my LCD. So then this becomes 2x plus 2 over x. And now I can divide. So the blue one divided by the green one. I'm going to keep, flip, change it. So keep it, change it to multiplication, flip upside down. And now I'm going to look for things to simplify. Now, the x's for sure, they're gone. But on the diagonals, I can pull a GCF out of each of these. So out of the top of the blue, I'm going to pull out a GCF of 2. And then I had the 1 that I canceled it to. And then same thing here. The x became a 1. Pull out a GCF of 2 here. And now I can cancel out the 2's. And now my final answer is just the x minus 1 over the x plus 1. And then one last example. The denominator I don't need to do anything with. However, the numerator, I need to find a common denominator. So let me go ahead and do that one. I'll do it down here. So I'm going to do the numerator here. So 1 over x plus 3 minus 1 over x. Now, what I'd like to do is I'm going to do a keep, flip, change here, and I'm going to change this to addition and make that 1 negative. It's just going to make things a little easier for me. So now my common denominator is going to be both. It's going to be the x times the x plus 3. So over here, the first fraction is missing an x. So this numerator becomes an x. Make it blue. And then this one, and here's why I put it in and I did the keep, flip, change, because I need to distribute the -1 to the x and to the 3. So my numerator over here is -x minus 3. Now, again, do not look for things to cancel. We need to add this numerator first. So this becomes x plus -x plus, and then minus 3. So we really don't even need to put it in as minus x. Let me just do it as x minus 3 over x times x plus 3. Notice this x and this x are gone. So now I'm only left with, for the denominator, -3 over x times x plus 3. Now I have to do my keep, flip, change. So now this was the simplified numerator. So that was blue. So the numerator was this. The denominator, I didn't do anything to. So that was left as 1 over x. So now I'm going to do the keep, flip, change. So negative 3, x plus 3. And actually, I'll do divided by 1 over x. Keep this the same. Change it to multiplication. Flip this one upside down. And then this will simplify. The only thing I can simplify here are the x's. And then I leave everything else. So negative 3 over x plus 3. Do not be tempted to cancel those 3's. That denominator, the x plus 3, is attached. So that is it for your prerequisite chapter.